Hello and welcome to another episode of Tao of the Blaze Dragon with your host, Shampoo VTA. And as you can see, we're not in our usual location. We've broken into a random house and we're squatting. Now, Nana's gone to Canada to visit her 90-year-old sister and in Sarnia. And we're house sitting for her. She wanted us to come over and cook a turkey, so that's what we came over to do. We had turkey yesterday. And the boys spent the night with us. We had a lot of fun. I remembered what bud I bought. This is the Master Kush. I guess I can't hold it way over there because I've got my camera way over there. I still have a little bit of this Master Kush, but my son brought over some Blue Dream that we are going to enjoy. So should I do this first corner hit or what? Sure. Okay. This is his little bubbler from the 420 box, which is so funny because it's just like, it's very much like the one I got almost, I don't know, several months ago, like last summer. I really like this bubbler. And the cool thing about it is you can stick a joint in the side and use the bowl as a carb and use as a bubbler for smoking a joint, because that's what we did yesterday. It was great. I carefully cornered it. Isn't that the best part of waking up, gentlemen? Yes, it is. Indeed, indeed. You know what else makes this a really great backpacking mug? That you can take off the parts that are pipe parts and just hook it onto your backpack with a carabiner. This would be a great way to enjoy yourself in camp in the morning. REI should make one of these. Wake and bake mug. Alrighty. Oh, muchas gracias. Muchas gracias. There you are. Okay, I will share some of this with you, but you gotta be careful not to pour hot tea on yourself. Oh, thank you so much. Cinnamon rolls without the sugar on it. Oh, BKB. Let's get to the news. Let's get to the news. Shrinky dink. I'm not going to be able to upload my show here because my mother-in-law has extremely slow internet, so I'm going to have to do this, rush this back home, which is only a few blocks away, so I'll be able to do that. All right, now the first story I'm going to start out with this morning is very interesting. It is Rand Paul's Denver fundraising taps marijuana industry and more. Rand Paul is courting the marijuana industry in Colorado for money for his presidential campaign. Here he goes. I'm going to use a slider for this one. It is hot. The tea is hot. All right. Here we go. My might take a second. As older people get older, it's just harder for them to keep up with technology. So her technology level is like, I don't know, early 90s. No, early 2000s, maybe early 2000s is about where her technology level has cut off. So she doesn't need fast upload speeds or any of that kind of stuff for the things she wants to do, which is mostly just check her stocks. Stock trade. Okay. Rand Paul's Denver fundraiser. Oh no, that was a pause. That was me pushing pause. See? Why are you doing that when I know there's pause? Okay, so you're not playing. Rand Paul's Denver fundraising taps marijuana industry and more. For the first time ever, on Tuesday, a major party candidate for president of the United States raised money from the legal weed industry. Rand Paul, a U.S. Senator from Kentucky running for the Republican nomination for president, raked in thousands of dollars when he held a fundraiser in conjunction with the Cannabis Business Summit at the Denver Convention Center. Later in the day, he rallied with supporters and held a private fundraiser at the Denver Athletic Club. For 2 years after Oregon became the first state to decriminalize small amounts of marijuana, the state is taking its first steps along the road leading to state licensed stores selling limited amounts of it to anyone over 21. Oregon has long been a pioneer on sensible marijuana policies, said Anthony Johnson, chief petitioner on Measure 91, which on Wednesday makes Oregon the fourth state to adopt laws legalizing recreational use of cannabis for people old enough to drink. He added, though, that he doesn't expect much increased demand for it. Smoking it in public is illegal, but in Portland, police are discouraging residents from calling 911 to report smokers. People who make marijuana hash oil with hazardous materials at home will face felony charges in Colorado. And online bullies will be subject to penalties for harassment under new state laws taking effect Wednesday. I guess this is another story that they're telling us about. Why did you say all these things? What's it got to do with Rand Paul? So isn't it very interesting that Rand Paul is the first presidential candidate to actually be courting the marijuana vote? And he probably won't be the last. Marijuana expulsions nosedive. Marijuana expulsions nosedive. The number of marijuana-related expulsions in school districts in 51 was cut nearly in half year over year in 2014 through 2015. A feat district officials attribute to counseling programs and security officer presence in schools. Expulsions overall decreased in the districts from 78 in 2013 and 14 to 51 in 2014 to 2015. The lowest number of expulsions the district has had in at least a decade. Although it remains the largest category of expulsions, drug-related expulsions decreased to their lowest point in 6 years, in 2014 through 2015. The district expelled 32 students for drug-related offenses in 2014-2015, down from 59 the previous year. District 51 school board member Jeff Leaney said he had predicted drug-related expulsions would increase following the passage of Amendment 64, which legalized the sale and possession of recreational marijuana for adults aged 21 and older. Retail marijuana stores began opening in January 2014, making 2014-2015 the first full school year since the shops became legal in Colorado. Lenny said he's glad he lost the bet on drug expulsions, which had been at or above 40% each year, or 40, excuse me, each year since medical marijuana shops began popping up in Mesa County in 2009. That's a good celebration, Lenny said. What? Celebration? I don't know what that. Okay, Lenny said of the decrease in expulsions. District 51 Prevention Coordinator Kathy Haller says a new program called Pathways deserves at least some credit for the dip in expulsions. The district rolled out Pathways in the first semester of 2014-2015. Students caught with drugs for the first time, a second offense results in expulsion. Okay. We're offering a chance to spend a 5-day suspension at the Basil T. Knight Center learning about the effects of substance abuse as well as how to set long-term and short-term life goals and make better decisions. Students with a true substance abuse problem also receive on-site counseling from Mind Spring Health. Just 4% of the approximately 150 kids who enrolled in Pathways dropped out and chose at-home suspension. Instead of Heller said, the only 8 kids had a repeat drug offense after completing Pathways. We had multiple repeaters always in years past, she said. Well, I won't read the rest of this, but it sounds like in conjunction with the school program, legalization has knocked those numbers down in ways that, no, I'm sorry, increased security has never done before. You know, counseling programs can be a big help, but increased security is little boy blue with his finger in the dam. You're just hiring some poor sucker to put his finger in the dam because you don't want to fix the dam. That's what security guard work is. Poor management. If you have more security guards, it is a reflection of poor management. You shouldn't be able to see security guards at all. You don't see them at Disneyland. I keep bringing up Disneyland. Look around Disneyland. Do you see people being hauled off by the police, dragged through the streets of Disneyland off somewhere? No. Because they do all that with such control and precision, most people don't even see any of that stuff happening. And yet it's happening all the time. Are you guys finished with yours? Here. Okay. Put some of that in there for you guys. I can share my last of the bud. You shared with me. That's what stoners do. We share. We should. Anyway. It's hard sometimes when you're at your last bowl. You're like, I can't. But if I can, I can. And I will. Governor appoints 5 marijuana control board members. Governor Bill Walker announced his 5 appointments Wednesday to the newly created Marijuana Control Board, the body that will develop pot regulations for the state. The board was created after voters passed a ballot measure in November to legalize recreational marijuana. Its members are tasked with hashing out regulations regarding the cultivation, processing, and commercial sale of marijuana. The members include Public Safety Seat Peter Malenarik, I'm not going to pronounce these, Public Safety Seat Lauren Jones of Evansville, and Rural Seat Mark Springer, Industry Seat Bruce Schultz. They bring with them decades of experience in public health, business development, and rural issues, Walker said in a statement. With their different backgrounds and diverse skill sets, they will help shepherd in regulations for this new industry. House Bill 123, which the state legislature passed in April, establishes the Marijuana Specific Control Board. The legalization also required Walker to select 2 people with experience in the marijuana industry for the initial appointments. This experience can be obtained through lawful participation in the marijuana industry or participation in an academy or advocacy role related to the marijuana industry, according to release from the governor's office. Schultz, a commercial pilot and registered architect, was a spokesperson for the campaign to regulate marijuana like alcohol and the Coalition for Reasonable Cannabis Legislation and provide testimony on marijuana legislation. Emmett was also involved in the legalization movement in Alaska as the executive director for Coalition for Responsible Cannabis Legislation. He is also an active with the Fairbanks North Star Borough Mayor's Marijuana Work Group. The Alaska Department of Revenue estimates tax revenues will bring in between $5.1 million to $9.2 million in the first year of commercial sales, according to the statement from the governor's office. Ahead of the appointments, the Alcohol Beverage Control Board adopted a temporary regulation that specifies where people can smoke. The Marijuana Control Board can review, amend, or repeal the regulation. So that's really cool. Governor appoints 5 control board members. That's cool. Things are moving along, getting regulated. I'm moving along, getting this done. A scramble is on to save one of California's iconic medical pot collectives. San Francisco. In 1974, Valerie Corral began treating her seizures with homegrown cannabis. 41 years later, the iconic organization she co-founded to help others heal with marijuana is in danger of closing permanently. The Women's Alliance, Women and Men's Alliance for Medical Marijuana in Santa Cruz, California, provides medical cannabis to seriously ill patients at little or no cost. Funded in 1993 by Valerie and Mike Corral, WHAM functions as a cooperative. Instead of purchasing marijuana like one would at a traditional dispensary, the collective's 850 members receive low or zero cost bud depending on needs and ability to donate. Those who can't afford to donate are encouraged to volunteer for the collective in exchange for access to cannabis grown in Wham's garden. That can mean helping harvest the plant, filling cannabis capsules, providing end-of-life care for the seriously ill, or organizing a yard sale to raise funds. The nonprofit operates entirely off of donations from past and present members. In California, WHAM is one of the only true collectives, Amanda Remain of the Drug Policy Alliance said. People that partake in the medicine have helped grow the medicine. The whole process of cultivation is part of the healing and is part of the community. I think that should be actually the model for a lot of us. I think that growing the marijuana is part of the healing. It's good for you. That model, however, has left the collectives financially vulnerable. Confronted with the possibility of folding, WHAM is now turning to the community it has served for 2 decades for help. The Corrals began living on the land where WHAM now operates in 1986 when they befriended Alexander Peter Leaf, an English landowner who offered them partial ownership in exchange for keeping up the property and making improvements to it. After Leith's death in 2001, the Corrals took out a mortgage to buy the portion of the property. The couple, who has since divorced, has been growing their own marijuana for years, 4 years after they discovered it helped rid Valerie and of grand mal seizures. She had been experiencing since getting in a car accident at age 20. I swear, isn't this the same collective that um, Mama Nona, that old lady that was cooking the Italian food? Isn't this that same collective? Because wasn't her daughter the one that had the car accident and had those seizures? So I think this might be their collective that's in trouble. Illness is a profound kind of prison, she said. It changes everything. I swear this is her. Mike had read in a medical journal about how marijuana was being used to treat seizures in rats. She was having no relief from the medication she was on, Mike said. If this is real, then we need to do something. A couple of decades, wait a minute, a couple decided to cultivate their own marijuana to see if it would help curb Valerie's epilepsy. Over the course of 2.5 years, Valerie went from as many as 5 seizures a day to zero, eventually getting to the point where she was taking none of her prescription drugs. It was a different pace of living in the world without the kind of isolation that illness brings, she said. Witnessing Valerie's success firsthand, the couple began quietly providing marijuana to friends and family with cancer and HIV. In 1992, the Corrals were arrested for growing 5 marijuana plants in front of their home. The charges were dropped after Valerie claimed medical necessity, but they were arrested again the following year. While they faced no charges in the second arrest, the case drew the attention of the local media, landing the couple on the front page of the Santa Cruz Sentinel. As word spread of how they were using cannabis as medicine, people began calling the Corrals to see if they too could get help. Fortuitously, Santa Cruz voters had recently approved a measure ending the city's prohibition of medical marijuana. Not long after that, Wham was born. It's about sharing, Valerie said. It's about living in the kind of world that I want to die in. The collective started out providing medical marijuana primarily to terminal patients. As demand grew, so did the size of their operation. Mike, the son of 2 farmers, handled most of the cultivation while Valerie worked with the patients and managed the group's political advocacy. In 1996, Valerie co-authored Proposition 2215, which legalized the possession and cultivation of medical marijuana, making California the first state in the union to legalize medical marijuana. Despite California's drug policy progress, Wham's legal headaches weren't over. Following the Supreme Court ruling that California's medical marijuana law did not preclude federal prosecution, the Drug Enforcement Administration under President George W. Bush began to crack down on medical marijuana sites across the state. In 2002, DEA agents raided the collective's gardens, taking the chainsaw to 167 cannabis plants and arresting the Corrals on conspiracy and drug charges. The raids shocked local officials, whom the Corrals had cooperated for a decade. 2 weeks after the raid, they stood with members of the collective on the steps of Santa Cruz City Hall and gave away marijuana to protest of the feds. In protest of the feds. We are not California wackos, Santa Cruz mayor at the time, Christopher Crone, told New York Times 2002. We are trailblazers. We are normal. This is not an attempt to embarrass the DEA, but rather to compensate gathering in support of, let's see, compassionate gathering in support of sick people who need their medicine. The corrals received an outpouring of public support after the raid. After the raid, I'm like looking at the picture and I'm like, is that her? The corrals received an outpouring of public support after the raid decimated their marijuana supply. The city joined the collective in a lawsuit against the federal government, challenging the Justice Department's authority to interfere with the state's medical marijuana law. In 2004, a federal judge ruled in the collective's favor, a landmark decision that gave them the okay to continue growing and distributing marijuana to low-income patients. I think this lady here, with a vest jacket and the glasses and the dark hair, I think that is the same lady that was on that video with Mama Nona that was cooking the marijuana stuff. I'm gonna go look that up, and if that is the same, yeah, people have to help them. Well, I mean, people have to help them anyway, but people definitely have to help them. How come you're not bringing up that they did that video? Since the DEA setback, WHAM has continued to expand its garden and open up membership to more individuals. However, financial constraints may prove to be an ever bigger challenge to the collective than federal law enforcement. Mike and Valerie have been separated since 2001, and their divorce has become final last year. Mike decided to move on from his role with WHAM and open his own cannabis consulting shop. While he remains a supporter of the organization he co-funded, he can no longer financially maintain his ownership of half of WHAM's land. Valerie, meanwhile, lacks the funds to buy an out. Faced with the prospect of closure, both Mike and Valerie Corral have been working with WHAM's board of directors to find a way to keep the organization on the land and providing marijuana to those in need. In the meantime, the property has been leased for sale. Mike has been incredibly generous since the very beginning of the collective, and especially over the last few years. And that's one of the reasons WHAM has been able to sustain our mission of service, Valerie said. But we can't afford to postpone sale of the land indefinitely. So now we need to seek that same generosity from people who lives have been touched directly in or indirectly by our work. In May, Valerie and WHAM launched an Indiegogo campaign with the initial goal of raising $150,000. As of Tuesday, 285 people have donated $28,000 to the campaign. Although there's no hard deadline for the fundraiser, the financial burdens of owning the land has prompted the Carrolls to act as quickly as possible. Yes, this is definitely her. This is definitely the same people that did that other video, so I'll connect them. So definitely check this story out, that this collective is in trouble. And it sounds like it's an amicable divorce. Like, they're not, mad at each other or anything. It's just a result of their divorce that this collective is in danger. And I think if they're doing that great video about cooking for people, I think it definitely needs help. People definitely need to do something. Stoners, come on, you need to do something. They've indirectly touched our lives. First marriage equality, next marijuana. Oh, that was such a good story. I didn't know all that. It's like a backstory to that whole Mama Nona cooking episode. Here's the backstory to that. They need help. First marijuana equality, first marriage equality, next legal marijuana. There we go. We need to call it marijuana equality. Okay. As celebration subsides and we start thinking about the legacy of the Supreme Court same-sex marriage decision on Friday, we are also reminded about how quickly the gay rights movement progressed in just a few years. While the fight for equality far from is far from over, as the New York Times points out, we can start to ask the question, what's next? My answer, legalizing marijuana. States as laboratories of democracy is a beautiful feature of the American political system. Since our country's founding, most landmark social shifts have been led by the states, with federal action as a lagging indicator. Marijuana legalization is still in its infancy, but poised to follow the same path as interracial marriage, women's suffrage, and same sex marriage. And here's the graph, taking the pace of social change. Interracial marriage, which is the green graph, and look how long it took. From 1787 all the way up to the mid-50s. And that's when my mom and dad were born, around that time. So they saw the change in interracial marriage and heard the arguments and stuff. Prohibition, that was Prohibition 1850 to 1920. How do you figure that? Women's suffrage. Let's see, purple one. That was the mid 18 or late 1800s to 1920, and that's when we got the vote. Let's see, abortion, very short. See, look at how they're shortening. This is what I was saying. See, boys, I want you to see this. Look at this graph, okay? Look at how fucking stubborn people were over interracial marriage right there. The green one. Look at how long that is, okay? And then this one right here, this is Prohibition, and it ended in 1920 when we realized that this was a really stupid idea and we're just making the mob stronger, right? This purple one, look how short it is. This is women's suffrage. This is us getting the vote and also the right to own our own land and stuff. Okay. This is Roe versus Wade, almost completely perpendicular, up and down, right? And over here is Oberfeld versus Hodges, which is gay marriage, and legalizing marijuana is next. And this is what I'm saying. Look at how they get shorter and shorter and shorter. Because as you discover more things, as you discover more things, as you discover more things, the more things you discover, ask more questions, those more questions lead to more answers, and it grows. It's just exponentially grows. That's why our thought processes on these social changes is going faster and faster and faster. And that's what I'm talking about. You see people now tripping and falling. They don't have time anymore. This isn't someday tomorrow or whatever. This isn't, well, maybe someday down the road. It's coming. It's coming fast. And you need to recognize. That's what I say. So, why is marijuana legalization important? The harms of prohibition. Between 2001 and 2011, 7 million Americans were arrested for marijuana crimes, even though usage among blacks and white Americans is almost equal. Black Americans are 4 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana crimes. The number are so big, it's easy to see them as abstractions. Again, there are millions of Americans alive today who have been violently stripped of their liberties solely for the decision about marijuana. Their decision about marijuana. Another impact of prohibition has been the militarization of the American police force. Today, we see over 40,000 paramilitary raids every year on American soil, targeting American citizens. Each of those raids inflicts lasting trauma on its victims and sometimes leads to the loss of innocent lives. Each story is heartbreaking. Even if we accept the above as an acceptable human cost of prohibition, there are financial costs to consider. The Cato Institute estimated that marijuana legalization would save the federal and state government $8.7 billion a year. Because look at all their fancy duds. Look at the helmet. And it's just not a normal helmet. It's got to be a Kevlar helmet. And he's got a cam. And he's got a little, like, masky thing. And if you go to a gun shop and you look at any of these articles of clothing, they cost bank, man. It's not a joke. Being a gun collector or a knife collector, you need to have a little cash in your pocket. It's not cheap. I know a lot of cops won't use an expensive knife. They use a cheap, Big Five knife because they know they're going to lose it and they can't afford it and they got to buy their own knife. But if the government's buying it for them, it ain't going to be from Big Five. They're going to go through contractors. The harm of marijuana. The harms of marijuana. Legalizing marijuana certainly imposes costs on society. As one example, since Colorado legalized marijuana in 2014, we have seen a sharp increase in the marijuana-related hospitalizations. Most of these are related to high-potency edibles. Each is concerning. Driving under the influence of marijuana is also dangerous and presents a public safety risk. Police departments across the country are still figuring out the best way to test for marijuana intoxication and developing protocols to deal with it. These concerns are real, but on balance, any reasonably informed person would conclude that the harms of prohibition are much greater than the harms of marijuana itself. What's next? Accepting that federal legalization is the goal, and also accepting that federal action lags behind state action. Let's look at the states. At least 5 states are poised to vote on marijuana legalization in November 2016. If all passes, then that brings the number of free states from 4 to 9. I like how they say free states, like the other states aren't free. We got a little more freedom than you do. This is a huge bump, but still less than a trigger point for the other major social changes. What role does business have to play? It has been wonderful to see business across the country step up in support of marriage equality. I do not want to diminish the role of activists who have been fighting for decades. They deserve most of the credit. However, it is hard to imagine that the amicus brief submitted to the Supreme Court by companies like Apple and Coca-Cola didn't weigh on the judge's decision. On marijuana legalization, businesses clearly have a role to play. Most obviously, the fledgling marijuana industry has been a major source of funds to promote legalization efforts across the country. The more subtle role industry has to play is in shaping public opinion. I believe that a major cause of the increasing public acceptance of marijuana has been reputable business operating in the open and demonstrating that legalization isn't the first sign of the apocalypse. The respectable marijuana dispensary fitting in with other businesses on commercial corridor can do a lot to change people's perception of marijuana. Even if the dispensary doesn't turn you into a marijuana user, it may make you more comfortable with the neighbor who is. We entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley are always talking about changing the world. If making the world a better place really is your goal, start a company in the marijuana industry. Don't worry about what it will look like on your resume, and don't let the fact that you aren't a stoner stop you. I had those same reservations, but I am glad I took the plunge. I haven't looked back. This market is wide open, and there are so many good ideas waiting to be built. This is your chance to contribute to real change while building a real business. Media also has an important role to play. As movies, TV shows, and books depict marijuana users as ordinary characters instead of base stereotypes, This does a lot to change entrenched public opinions. Think of the impact shows like Modern Family have had on millions of Americans' ideas of same sex couples. Businesses outside the marijuana industry should help by publicly supporting legalization efforts and ending the practice of drug testing potential employees for marijuana. Marijuana legalization may seem inevitable, but that view can be harmful. There is still a lot of hard work to be done between now and then. Now would be the worst time to phone it in. Oh, I got a story about that too. As we celebrate a marriage equality victory, let's think about what we learned and apply it to the cannabis legalization activists. Nonprofit and businesses all have an important role to play. Well, actually, they're absolutely right. We cannot get lazy about this. I don't know how to spell it. It'll spell it for me. Four arrested in Vancouver's Canada Day protest, and Canada Day got kind of violent, or Cannabis Day. Apparently, for the last 20 years, Canadian stoners have, like Mark Emery and his wife, have gone to, the city hall, wherever they were, and done this protest about medical marijuana. They've done it for 20 years. But because there's this new crazy guy that's in charge up there that's like, I don't know what to say about him. But he sent some goose stepping thugs down there, I guess, and they crawled up these poor people's rear end and camped out. It was unbelievable. I'll link to the video. So there was a very good video, very concise, where there was another gentleman, not from Hot TV, that was filming the events, and he got pepper sprayed, and he got shots of the arrest, and he also showed how people came out in droves after that. There was hardly anybody there. The cops showed up, they did their little, jiggermook, whatever it is, and then I guess cell phones came out, beep, 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 beep. Guess what, man? They're over here arresting people and freaking out and pepper spraying. It turned into 5 times its size, like that. Good job over there with those conservative politicians you got in Canada. They're not too bright, man. They just brought a ton of shade on themselves because we totally saw that. Four arrested in Vancouver Cannabis Day protests. The organizers of an annual marijuana protest in downtown Vancouver is blaming the city for an outbreak of violence that led to several protesters being arrested on Canada Day. You'll be able to see this video of the police behavior, and I swear it was like Occupy Wall Street. It was like the cops had learned something from the cops in New York. They were totally intimidating. I will show you the video. It is very clear that they were up in people's faces. It was BS. Longtime pot activist Jody Emery said this is the first time in the 20-year history of Cannabis Day that the event has experienced any confrontation with police. The city has been so tolerant before. She said, as a matter of fact, you set up past practice by being tolerant and then sending these Nazis down there. What is wrong with you? Do you know what you're doing? I mean, seriously. She said, speaking outside the Vancouver Art Gallery, where the protest was being held. I don't understand where this is coming from. Bystanders said they witnessed officers descend on the gathering of hundreds of people around noon. A scuffle ensued before at least one man was led away in handcuffs. Yeah, this super nice old dude, which I will link to that video, who was on Freddie Pritchard's show, and Freddie Pritchard was filming him doing a protest where he was rolling a joint in the courthouse lobby, and the cop came over and was trying to sit next to him, and he wasn't doing nothing wrong. He has a right to prepare his marijuana. He was not ingesting it. It was a proper protest. But I mean, there's some butthurt people up there, and Canadian government and they need to fix their wagon. This looks pathetic. This looks, I mean, what I saw was Neanderthal. It was violent and disgusting. And it was caused by your police. Seriously. Gross. Bystanders said they witnessed, okay, I read that. Angry crowds chanted as they followed the officers around the street corner where they loaded a man into a police van. Those police officers almost started a riot with their ridiculous, violent, Neanderthal yelling, pumping up. What is wrong with those people? That is mental. I'm sorry. It's just like high school. It's like being around those football players. Are you okay? Seriously. Are you okay? Are you going to be okay? What is your need to do this to other people? Are you just a bully deep down inside? Guy, what is your problem? Police initially said they had arrested 2 men, but an email sent later in the day confirmed that 4 people had been arrested and that investigators expected to lay charges against each of them. Spokesman, something or other, Brian Metigue, alleged in a release a man was overtly selling marijuana to minors and that he failed to stop after being warned. You guys are, yeah, no shit. Hey, you better dig that hole deeper. Dig that hole you're in deeper there, fool. Say some more stupid shit. Police specifically informed organizers that the open selling or giving away of illegal items to young people could result in arrest. What the hell are you even talking about? How do you know how old they are from far away? Are you psychic? Was this I want to see video, man. You guys had cameras there. I saw that. So I'd like to see your videos. I think that will come out in court. We'd like to see your videos. Read the release. It added that police were especially concerned in the wake of the April 420 marijuana celebration, which they said sent a significant number of people to the hospital. That was completely unrelated. Officers were immediately confronted and swarmed while trying to carry out the arrest, said Montague. Yeah, no, we saw what they did. And I won't read any more. There's no need to read any more because I'm going to post the video and you're going to get to see that's my last story for today. But you're going to get to see the clown shoes that those police put on and the, behavior that they went down there with. And I'm sorry, but that is a precipitating event. That is something that causes people to react because you literally are wearing a cologne of testosterone. So you are causing violence with your behavior. You damn well know it. It's aggressive. So gross. Oh, it was so gross. Wait till I show you this video. It was so disgusting. Okay, so 49 minutes. I still have a little time here. Hit this last hit. Save my last for Friday. We're going to do some weeding and cleaning up around Nana's house. Get on up out of here. We used the opportunity to set the tent up in the backyard and air it out. Ooh, so you can see. Okay, there's my tent. And then it rained. And then it like, hello, I'm gonna rain now. So funny. So you have a wonderful Thursday, and I'll link these videos and stories, and definitely make sure to check out what happened at Cannabis Day up in Canada because it's appalling. It's appalling. And if anybody wants to go out there and find out who those officers are, what their past record is, if they've had any violent acts against citizens before, I want all the information on those people. I want to know who sent them. I want to know everything. I want their video that they were taking there. I want to know everything. They want to talk blah blah blah. No, kick it up. I'm not even a Canadian citizen, and I want to know what happened there. This better not happen in California. I'll tell you what, is we get all Occupy up in here. We will get all Occupy up in here. There we go. Okay. So you stay high and goodbye. I always end with a laugh, isn't it funny? It's like, I don't know what to do.